Hi, my name is Cicely Frempong, and I'm currently working as a clinical associate in psychology, as well as studying for my master's degree at UCL University. I would say that my passion for mental health came in maybe when I was at school and I was studying in uni. I did a placement and I was working with young people with eating disorders, and I just realized that there was a lot of young people that had a lot of mental health issues that people didn't really know or speak about. So there was loads of young people that I would maybe go and see because I was shadowing a clinical psychologist at the time, and I would notice that a lot of them were students the same as me, the same age sort of, and doing a similar degree as myself. However, in lectures I wouldn't even notice that these sort of students were going through mental health issues as well. I think that's where my passion really came from, and I really didn't do much about it except the normal university process and finishing. I think I finished my degree, started working like a normal 9 to 5 that had nothing to do with mental health, and then eventually I just realized, okay, this is something that I need to go into. So I started off my journey by applying for a job on a forensic psychiatric ward. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really know what I was applying for. I just wanted experience into mental health because in my head I thought, okay, I need to do my doctorate in order for me to be a clinical psychologist or to get where I needed to be. So I started that, and always at the back of my head, I always said to myself I wanted to start something on social media that would help young people to manage their mental health and even prevent them from becoming people that come into that system. So I think, I started working and I just thought, like, this is a lot. It was a lot of pressure. I started to evaluate the people that sort of work in these environments, and you just notice that a lot of it is down to just making money per se and not actually caring for a person's mental health. I think for me, when I started to establish the business, which I now call Sound Minds UK, I'll explain what Sound Minds UK is. Sound Minds UK is a organization. It will soon be a consultancy, but the aim of it is to help young people with mental health issues. Our slogan, or even something that we like to say, is that it's young people helping young people. Because I've realized in today's society, if you even look at clinical psychologists today, a lot of them are like middle-aged people that don't really understand the struggles of young people today. And just looking at maybe like COVID in general, you just see how many young people struggled from mental health issues, but there's not really an understanding behind that. So we came up with an organization, myself and my team, and we basically help young people by creating illustrations or videos that are relatable, that can help prevent that. So to go back, so I was working on a ward as well, just going through a lot and seeing a lot, and just understanding that something as small as, let's say, not that it's small, but something like depression can develop into something like schizophrenia. So working on the psych ward, I met a young girl who I felt had a lot in common with myself. We were both the same age, both 23, and she had a lot of things that she had gone through. So she would speak about things that she went through at a younger age, and I would look at it and I think, okay, I went through something similar as well. However, I didn't end up in a forensic mental institution. And I saw that it was something as small as probably loneliness that led to just so much being played over the mind. So I think one thing that I will say is that the mind is a very powerful place, and it's somewhere that if it's not invested in, if it's not taken care of, it can develop to become a very toxic place. So using the example of the girl that I met on the ward, her issue years ago, at the age of maybe 5, 6, was that she was sexually abused. However, she had nobody to speak to. And that small thing of having someone there that you can speak to developed into her having to sort of hear voices, or her feeling lonely and thinking that there's nobody there for her, which then leads to, like, obviously her being put into like an institution, which is obviously the forensic psychiatric ward. So for me, I think my passion came from that, because I would see someone who it could have easily been prevented. someone that all she probably needed at the time was love and sort of care, and just having someone there for her could have been easily prevented to her now being someone that's in like a mental home. Looking at that, we all know, or from experience, what I can say is that a lot of people that are put in those sort of sectionings, they don't go on to live like a normal life afterwards. There's always something on them. So I think my passion came from wanting to help young people not go to that place. Like obviously where she was, there was a lot of older people there who had been there for maybe over 20 to 30 years. They've just been in and out of a mental sort of institution. And my aim was that I didn't like what I saw, and I didn't want young people to sort of go through that sort of experience or feelings of loneliness. So yeah, we set up our page during COVID period. I knew that by that period, mental health would have hit its roof. Like there would be loads of cases because let's say what's good for our mental health is having the ability to express ourselves, being able to go out. Let's say if my home or if somebody's home is a toxic place, leaving the house might be something that benefits their mental health. But now, let's say at that time, there was a lockdown. So I knew that a lot of people would be suffering with their mental health. So what I would do was, I started off just using Canva and sort of using the images that we had on Canva and creating posts. But I realized this was just like, it was like every other Instagram page that was there. So I realized, okay, I'm going to sort of have to learn how to draw and illustrate these things properly. So I started off with illustrations. I saw that it was getting good receptions. Would have young people that would DM us any issues that they were having, and we would help them with it. People as young as 13 would send us a DM talking about how they're struggling with their mental health and they just feel like a type of way. So we saw that this was something that was lacking, especially in the Black community. Not many people know how to express or sort of talk about their mental health. So we carried on, started doing some videos, reels, things that were, how can I put it? Things that were relatable to young people, and we just sort of went with it. So I'll say our aim for the next year, not even to the next year, but by the end of this year, we want to be in schools. We've had some teachers that have also sent us DMs that have asked if we come into schools to do workshops and stuff. So my aim is to actually integrate this into the curriculum of young people. I think in some schools they've started to teach more about mental health, but it's not exactly what people need, in the sense that it doesn't relate to everyday life. It's the simple, okay, if you're feeling suicidal, this is a helpline to call. When actually we need to teach our young people strategies and ways of them to cope with struggling or even battling with their own minds. One thing that I want to do in schools is help young people train their minds. I think the mind is something that can wander, and it can make maybe like a small situation into something that it really didn't need to be that big. So I think by helping young people train their minds, it also helps with this whole issue with mental health. I think one thing that I will also say, I think speaking to some boys from where I live, I've realized that people think that like even just the term mental health has a stigma to it. But what people don't realize is that everybody has mental health. The issue is if your mental health is at a good place or if it's at a bad place. So what we aim to do is to keep people at a stage where their mental health is good. I feel like even with businesses or even with simple things like university, you're able to achieve a lot more if you have a good mental health. If you have good mental health in comparison to having bad mental health. So things like toxic thoughts or just overthinking, these are the kind of things that we sort of want to go into schools and train young people about. Even if we just look at ourselves, you can say that an exam has happened but you didn't prepare for it, so you start to overthink situations of, okay, you've opened a sheet of paper and you found that you failed your exams, and now you're thinking, oh, how is my mum going to react, and life is not worth living or whatnot. And you look at maybe even just newspaper articles, and I'm seeing like different young people that are just killing themselves over struggling with university. I think there was a young case with a boy who I think his mum had said that he had been isolating a lot. However, he was also very pressured with uni in terms of whatever he was doing as a degree, and he just felt that the disappointment of him failing would be it would be better for him to sort of take his life than have to explain to his parents why he failed. Now, from that alone, you can kind of see that somebody needs to sort of program their minds a lot different. They need to some sort of training, because ideally failing an exam does not equate to losing your life. Failing an exam, you retake the exam. So if we're able to program young people's minds to a point where they realize, okay, the value of life is a lot more than an exam, or the value of life is a lot more than like a temporary feeling. So yeah, that's one of our main aims, is to go into schools, help young people with trainings of their minds, to be able to train their minds, or to even able to take care of themselves better. Also, we aim to go into businesses as well, to just get people working at the best, or like whatever productivity would be best for their business in that time. So far, I've only spoken about one aspect of psychology, and that's clinical psychology. So that's to do with a person's mind, it's to do with mental health in general. There are other sides to psychology. So there's occupational psychology, which I sort of briefly touched on when I spoke about Sound Minds UK. And I spoke about going into businesses to help with the functioning of a business. That would be what occupational psychology is. Occupational psychology would be more of like the HR sort of places, to see why people take days off work, or why people call in sick, and how to sort of better a person by just maybe getting them to a point where they can perform at their best ability. There's also different aspects of psychology, like child psychology, there's sports psychology, there's the research side of psychology, where you sort of research things as to why the brain reacts a certain way, or why a person does this, and the probability of that. So for a person studying psychology now, you'll probably know, or you probably would have seen these different aspects of psychology, even like social psychology, where it's more about how society affects a person's mind, or a person's being. But I would advise that you sort of do the uni course, you do the uni degree. One thing that I think that benefited me a lot was being able to go on a placement. I think that allowed me to see what exactly I was stepping into, and whether this was what I needed. And I think for me, it was exactly what I wanted to do. It made me aware, because I think at uni, all they really teach you is the theory side of things. They teach you all the coursework, the book's knowledge, but actually going out and being practical with it is a lot different. So I would advise that somebody go into university to do a placement year, just to get a feel of what you would be in. And obviously you can find a placement in occupational psychology, in sports psychology, in research psychology, like just research and methods and stuff. You can find like a placement on that, and then you'll be able to better sort of make a decision as to where you would like to go in the future. But yeah, I would say those are my final words.